Alright, hi and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to set up a Teamspeak 5 or 3 server. And afterwards we're going to set up a SinusBot instance, which is a music bot for Teamspeak and Discord, which can also execute commands. So it's pretty much something useful to have too if you're having a Teamspeak server. But mainly we're focusing on a Teamspeak server. But before we're setting up the Teamspeak server, we're going to set up a Linux server with ubuntu. So if you're hosting the server at your home station or whatever, this tutorial does make sense. If you have a hosting environment, so a VPS or whatever, a virtual private server, you can skip the part where I'm setting up the Linux server because your hoster already did this part for you. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to connect to your server. But for the people who are interested, they can watch that too. But if you already have a server, you can skip to the part where I'm setting up the Teamspeak server, which is pretty much easier than it looks. And yeah. This is Teamspeak 5. It's pretty much the modern version of Teamspeak 3. Your Teamspeak server is going to look something like that afterwards, without audio channels of course. We are going to do another tutorial on how to set up a Teamspeak server, but generally we're just focusing on how to create it today and not how to create channels or permissions or whatever. But if you already know how to set up a Teamspeak server regarding permissions and so on, you can skip the next tutorial of course and start from your own. Yeah. What you're going to need is a server with about 40 gigabytes. If you have more, it's fine. If you have less, it's fine too, unless you're planning on uploading a lot of files. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to host the server today in a virtual machine environment, which I'm creating on my computer. As you can already see, I'm also on a Linux environment regarding my computer. And it's everything is in German because I'm German personally, so I'm trying to translate everything to English. If there's something you might not understand, please let me know. I'm just trying to translate everything. It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't make much of a difference. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a virtual machine, which is, okay, this one's already gone, which is mandatory for me to have a server. If you already have a server set up on another computer, it's fine, but I'm going to do it on a virtual machine with about 8 gigabytes of RAM and about 8 CPUs now, and I'm going to create a disk, which I'm going to call just Teamspeak, with about 60 gigabytes. You won't need 60 gigabytes for a Teamspeak server. It's fine if you have 10 gigabytes for a Teamspeak server. But the more you have, the better it is, I guess. Okay, I'm going to call the server just Teamspeak. I'm going to edit the configuration. And I'm going to choose as a virtual network the Teamspeak_NAT, which I just created. NAT is basically a network internally at my computer. So the things my Ubuntu server is doing are being passed through to my actual network. So my server has its own IP address, so I can reach the server with this IP address within my actual network. If I want to reach it with outside from my network, I have to open ports, which I'm not going to do in this video because it's taking way more time, and I don't want to open ports because it's making my actual network unsafe, and I don't want to have that. Okay, we're not going to change pretty much here, actually, only from word.io. Because word.io is basically, I mean, it's nice if you're having a Windows virtual machine because it's pretty fast, but not for the actual Linux server. Okay, we're going to start the installation. I hope I'm not crashing the server today because I already did that twice today. And I already fucked it up, but not today. Okay, we're starting by trying or installing Ubuntu. We're going to cover how to do partitioning, what to install, the packages you're going to need. Yeah, generally manual partitioning isn't that hard. Actually, many people say it is, but it isn't. What else are we going to do? Yeah, I'm going to show you some best practices regarding server management. I mean, I'm not the best network technician actually, but I know some things, one thing or two, and I'm going to show you this. For the matter of this tutorial, you're going to choose the English language for this server. You don't need to update your installer because that's useless. And I'm going to use a German keyboard since I'm still German. but it doesn't make a difference for you. Alright. Do you want to install the Ubuntu server or the Ubuntu server minimized? That's the question you should ask yourself before installing. Actually, if you know what you're doing, the minimized version is fine, but I'm just a lazy person. I don't really want to install every package by myself, so I'm just using the normal Ubuntu server installation, which is basically 1 GB more probably than the minimized version, so it doesn't make a big difference if you have a lot of space. If you don't have much space, of course it does make sense using the minimized version, but we do have 60 GB, so who cares? This is your network setup. Since I'm in a virtual machine, I've already set it up automatically. I'd recommend not using a wireless network connection because it doesn't make sense, because imagine there's a change in your network password or your router name or whatever. You have to change that by the console, which is a lot of work. I wouldn't even know the comments out of my head. You have to Google them, and it's just a pain in the ass actually to have a wireless network on a server. It doesn't make sense. It's out of first best practice. Do not use a wireless network on a server. Doesn't make sense. And I have a proxy if you wouldn't use it, of course. That doesn't matter. Just continue. And today we're going to use the custom storage layout. If you know what you're doing, of course use the custom storage layout. If you don't, you should use it too, because from my personal perspective, I've just had problems with every Linux computer I had, where I let Ubuntu or whatever distribution I had do the partitioning for me. It's never worked out perfectly. After 1 or 2 weeks there were problems which made my partitions not work properly or whatever, so I'm just a big fan of the custom storage layout, because you can decide where your space is going and whatever. Alright. It looks harder than it actually is, but I'm going to show you. First, we're going to start off by adding a GPT partition with about 512 megabytes, which we are going to mount at boot, which is going to be our bootloader. As you can already see, after creating this, it created a boot and an FE partition, which is our actual bootloader, which tells the system, okay, you have to boot this one up, actually. Next, I'm going to create a swap partition. You don't have to create a swap partition. It's basically just, I'm having 8 gigabytes of RAM now. And if all of these 8 gigabytes are being used, it's going to outsource some of my RAM to my swap partition. It does make sense if you're having small amounts of RAM, of course, and it's recommended to have half the amount of your RAM as a swap partition, which I'm going to do now, which is 4 gigabytes, so 4 gigabytes and format swap. However, you don't have to do it. If you don't want to have a swap partition, you don't have to. On a VPS hosting, you're probably not going to have a swap partition, but you can create one with modern tricks, of course. But generally, VPS hosters don't give you a swap partition because they want you to upgrade their plan, of course, to make more money. But however, it doesn't matter. If you want one, you can have it. Lastly, we're going to add a partition which is going to store our files with the rest of the amount we are having. But we're not going to format it just now. We're just going to leave it unformatted. And we're going to create a volume group. This does make sense when you're using a server. It's also the second best practice I couldn't show you. Of course, LVM is an optimized form which is speeding up your disk, and you can use it on a home machine, of course, too, but that doesn't make sense. Generally speaking, I can just tell you, it does only make sense when you're having tera or petabytes of storage, and we don't have that with 60 gigabytes. But still, it's a best practice to use the LVM storage group, volume group, on a server, because it's just, I don't know, it's something nice to have, and I can only recommend it. We're going to use it on partition 4. If you want to encrypt it, you can do that. I think it's personally just annoying when you boot up the server and have to enter your passphrase. However, if you're storing a lot of important data, of course it does make sense securing your data and encrypting it, but we're not storing important data. I mean, it's a Teamspeak server, so yeah. We're just going to create it, and now we can assign the free space as a logical volume with, I'm going to call it files, with the rest of the amount of your system you have. If you're being a tidy person, you can of course assign 10 gigabytes to home and 10 gigabytes to whatever, but I know what I'm doing, and I'm a general normal Linux user, so I'm just going to put it all at the same mount point, so there's not a limit in some points, because I've made the experience when I'm limiting, for example, the user directory, at some point my kernel is going to be screaming at me because after 3 updates it's full, and I don't know, you have to clean up the kernels, and I just personally don't like that. I'm being limited. I want to have it all at the same mount point. Alright, format. Choose whatever you want. I mean, it's normal for Ubuntu to have an ext4 partition, which I'd recommend too because it's the standard Linux partition. You can do everything with an ext4 partition. BTRFS is pretty much a nice standard too, but you can't resize it. Just keep that in mind. You can't really resize an BTRFS partition, so that's why I don't really like it. But it's faster than the ext4, of course. But I'm just going to use ext4 for the matter of this tutorial, as I'm always using ext4. I'm just a big fan of this partition because it's been the standard for years. Yeah. Okay, we can now press done, continue. I'm going to call this machine Ubuntu for no reason. Basically, I'm going to delete the Ubuntu user anyways later. The reason why I'm setting it up now is because I want to show the other users who just bought the VPS how to delete the standard user, just saying that Ubuntu is now my standard user and creating their own user, which is also has sudo rights or root permission. And yeah, enable Ubuntu Pro if you have it. It's a free subscription which you can subscribe to online. It's up to 5 machines actually, it doesn't cost anything. Does make sense. And for the matter of this tutorial, I'm not going to install the openssh server. I'm going to do it afterwards in case I just want to show you in case someone forgot to install the openssh server when setting up the server. If you're just setting up your server, install it because you're going to need it, but I'm going to do it afterwards. Okay, and these are just packages you can install if you need some. I don't need any of those, so I'm going to skip that. And this is actually the installer now. And now we're going to wait. It's actually currently installing the kernel. And we're going to wait until the kernel is installed. Alright, it's finished. I'm going to cancel the update and start rebooting, but I'm going to have to wait some seconds, otherwise I'm going to break my system again. I hope it's going to finish soon. Anyways, what we're going to do now is setting up the server itself, updating, installing the packages we need to install a Teamspeak server, then we're going to log in via SSH. Generally speaking, there are going to be lots of comments, which I'm going to put down below in the info box in the description. But generally, stick with me, it's not as hard as it might look. Mate, are you going to finish, or is it just... I don't want to crash it, because it's generally... If I'm going to crash it, it's once again going to be bricked, and I don't want to have a bricked system again. Because... I'm just going to wait some seconds. What else can I tell you? Yeah, pretty much, this is my... These are all the comments, pretty much, we're going to use now. I just wrote them down. Mate, it's taking very long for this server, so I'm just going to shut down generally, hoping it's working. I don't want to brick it, you know, it's... I'm scared of... Yeah, we're going to put it there. And pray for it to start up now. Otherwise, it's going to be a pain in the ass because I once again have to do it all again. But it looks like it's booting, which I'm very happy. Yeah, it's booting. Okay, because I've already had this twice today, where I stopped the server after the setup instantly, where it was still shutting off the update, and I was like, I swear I was getting white because it's useless. Okay, this is the first Ubuntu setup. We're going to log in as the user we just created earlier, which is Ubuntu in my case, and I'm going to clear it firstly. So the first thing you want to do on this new server is sudo apt update. This is basically an update for your server, and I have the strong feeling that there is going to be an error now. because I think, yeah, I already see it, yeah, that the error is going to come, and I have to look out for this. I've already fixed this error today, but where's my mouse generally? Okay, ubuntu release no longer, because there's one way to fix it and it's pretty easy. It's just after setting it, yeah, exactly, it's sudo, okay, it's sudo nano /etc/aperture/sources.list, and I'm just going to cancel this one out. So, and now, mate, and now it should be working properly. It's just typical beginner's mistakes. So sudo upgrade to actually install the updates. This is probably going to take some minutes, I hope not. Otherwise I'm going wild again. I hate updating Ubuntu. Otherwise there are worse systems. I've been working on Fedora for some while, and Fedora is a very nice distribution if you know what you're doing, but I hate updating Fedora because of the installing Fedora. There's generally, it's not sudo apt update, it's sudo dnf update on Fedora, and the updating is taking half an hour, and then you have to upgrade it, and the upgrading is taking also half an hour, so you're like an hour into updating Fedora for the first time, which I thought is horrendous because it's just, I don't know, Fedora was always very annoying when updating, and as I can remember, I am gaming on Linux too, and I always remember Fedora as the distribution which was not working when you tried to game something. On Ubuntu, it's very nice, it's working perfectly, and the Steam Proton is working fine and everything, but on Fedora, nah. Okay, I reboot some services that you're going to need, and I'm going to clear this. Yeah. Okay. Next, for the people who may have forgot it, sudo apt install openssh-client. This is basically your OpenSSH server. For some reason it is already installed on my system, which I can't understand, but okay. Next thing, sudo apt install wget. You're going to need it to download packages from the internet. Also already installed for some funny reason. And the last thing, sudo apt install bzip2. This one is going to unzip archives, yeah, restart whatever you'd like, which you're going to need too for the Teamspeak server. Okay, last thing we're going to do on this server is sudo nano /etc/ssh_config. And on the bottom of this config, this is basically your SSH server config, we're going to add PermitRootLogin and put it on yes. If you're kind of knowing what you're doing, this is going to allow me to log in as a root account via SSH, because normally on a server you can only log in as root when you're actually the server, but you can't log in as root via SSH because that's insecure, and I wouldn't recommend having this option on forever. But for the matter of creating a server, I'd like being logged in as root, and that's the reason why I'm putting this on for the duration I'm creating a server. Afterwards, if the Teamspeak server is up and running, I'm going to delete this option again because it's very insecure. There's going to be hackers who are trying to log in as root, because root of course is the actual client who can log in as every other user, who can do everything, of course. What we're going to do is sudo service sshd restart, so the SSH service is restarted, and that's pretty much it for the server itself. I'm just going to do hostname -i to see my IP address, but what I'm going to do now is going to open up my terminal. If you're on Windows, it's pretty much the actual same command now. So you can connect to your server via SSH, then the username you want to connect with, so in my case Ubuntu, and then the IP address of your server. It's the completely same thing in Windows, so you can also put this command in Windows, because I know terminal and bash is something very different and whatever, but this command is for some miracle the same command on Windows. yes, I'm going to accept my fingerprint, and I'm going to log in as Ubuntu. And as you can see, I am logged in as Ubuntu. I'm going to clear that here, and I can close this window because I'm not going to need it anymore. But I'm going to open this one. Okay, first thing, you don't know the root password generally if you're on a professional hosting. So I'm going to do sudo-i. What this is doing is logging me in as the actual root account. As you can see, I'm now root at Ubuntu, and I'm going to do passwd, which gives me the option to change the password for the root account. If you're putting a user after passwd, you're going to change the password of the user you put on there, of course. Okay, I can put in logout or Ctrl-D, which means disconnect, which is going to put me back to the Ubuntu. And that wasn't very smart actually. I'm going to log in back as root. And what I'm going to do, as I told you, I want to delete the Ubuntu account, so I'm going to do useradd. No, not useradd, add user. And I'm going to call this user Philip, because my name is Philip. Exactly. And now it's asking me for a password. I'm going to put in this password. And you can leave this blank, or you can fill it in whatever you want. This is correct. And I'm going to add with userdel /ag, which is assigning a group to a user. I'm going to assign a group sudo to Philip, which means Philip can use the command sudo, which is basically executing a command as root. And I'm going to log out twice, and I'm going to log in as Philip now, which you can see now. I can log in as Philip, and I can test if Philip is working properly if I'm just doing sudo-i or whatever. And if I can execute this command, there's not going to be an error. It's actually working properly. Okay. Best case, I can already delete the Ubuntu user. Worst sudo userdel. Okay, this is the case where I can't delete the user, so I'm just going to do sudo reboot, which is rebooting my server. As you should see here now, it's going to stop and it's going to start again. If you actually, yeah, it's starting again, as you can see. And I'm just going to wait until I can connect. But I'm going to connect as root this time. Since, yeah, I just need a root user. Okay, perfect. I'm going to connect as root. Best case, I can log in. Exactly. And I am going to delete the user Ubuntu. So, Ubuntu is now being deleted. And I only have the user Philip. Okay. Now we're going to set up the Teamspeak server as promised, and we're going to start with a command which is adding a user called Teamspeak, but it's not using the regular home directories, because the regular home directories are located at /home and the username, but we're going to locate this one at /op/Teamspeak because we're setting up a service, and this is the optimal Ordner, I'm speaking German, folder for Teamspeak, for a service. Ordner is the German word for folder. I've just been speaking German, sorry. Okay, and this one is actually just prohibiting the server to ask us for a password. Alright, and now we're going to log us in as Teamspeak. We're going to log in with su-Teamspeak, which is now logging us in as Teamspeak, and we're going to download the files of the Teamspeak server, which we can do with the comment in the description, but generally wget and then the link to the Teamspeak server, and we want to download this one as Teamspeak-server blah blah blah. Okay, how to unzip this folder? bzip, I think bzip2 -d and then Teamspeak server. The -d is deleting the file with the archive afterwards because we're not going to need it anyway, so I'm just going to do this. Okay, if I'm looking now, there's ls is showing me the files. There's only a file called teamspeak-server.tar, and we can unzip this with tar xvf, I think, teamspeak-server.tar, and best case, there's another folder. And we have to move the contents. If we go to the folder, you can see this is actual Teamspeak server, but Generally, I'd like moving the contents of the folder, so we're going to do mv Teamspeak-Server / don't forget the star, please, otherwise you're just going to move the folder, and we're going to move it to opt/teamspeak. What we can do now too is rm Teamspeak-Server Linux, because we're not... Oh, rm-r because it's directory, and rm Teamspeak-Server.tar. Best case, our Teamspeak files are now in our home folder for Teamspeak. This is how it should be. What we now have to do, otherwise we wouldn't be able to start a Teamspeak server. Teamspeak wants us to accept the license. You can create a license file with touch and blah blah blah. So it's going to create the license file. We can see if we created this license file with ls-a, and here's the license file, which means we accepted the license and our Teamspeak server can start now properly. I'm going to log out as Teamspeak because I'm not going to need it anymore, and I'm going to create a service. What the service is going to do basically is telling our server to start a Teamspeak server when the server is starting up, stopping the Teamspeak server when we put in a certain comment, and so on. You can do this by nano/etc/systemd/system/teamspeak.service is the standard file for services, and there is a very big contents file you can put in here, which is just telling us where our telling the server where our Teamspeak server, etc. is. If you did something different, if you didn't call it user Teamspeak or whatever, you have to change those things here too. So don't change anything unless you know what you're doing, because yeah, it's just making things more complicated. So system control daemon -reload, which is reloading our services, and now we can actually system control enable -- now Teamspeak, which is going to enable our Teamspeak service. So our Teamspeak server is being started now for the first time. System control status Teamspeak. You should do this so you can see. I'm going to show you. So Teamspeak is active, running. This is perfectly fine. That's how it should be. And on the first time you're starting your Teamspeak server, and only on the first time, there's a privilege key here, which you are going to need because you want to be server admin to configure your server properly, of course. It's only going to be here for the first time starting your server. So if you're starting the server now, you're not going to see this privilege key again, except if you're going in the logs and reading logs. But come on, be honest, who does that? So I'm going to do hostname -i again, because what I'm going to show you now is what does he want? Okay, yeah. I'm going to connect to my Teamspeak server now. Teamspeak on Linux isn't always working perfectly, but it does what it should. Mate, come on. Come on. It doesn't matter. I'm a noob. Okay. I already have a server, so what I want to do is I'm going to put in join a server, but I have to put my IP address here. So that's why I just did hostname -i once again, so I can connect to my server. Normally we should connect. This is perfect. This is how it should look. There should be a default channel. It should be called Teamspeak server, 1 out of 32 users. This is perfectly fine. And you see it's already asking me, is this your server? Yes, it is. And you have to enter a privilege key, and the privilege key is the one it tells you here. I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to put this here. Wait a moment. I'm going to show you. No, I can't use the privilege key. You see, I'm not anything on this server. I can't edit the server. I can only look at the information, whatever. And now I'm going to use a privilege key. Going to put this in here. And I'm server admin, which means I can now configure this server. I can change the slots. I'm going to change it to 2, I guess. You see, it's perfectly fine now. Of course, since you just created a Teamspeak server, you're only having a free license, which grants you 32 slots on your Teamspeak server. If you need more, you have to contact Teamspeak to buy a license. Maybe you're being sponsored, which would be perfectly fine. so you can have more slots, or you just buy them at your hoster. I don't know, some hosters are verified. Just have to look at that. TeamSpeak has a list there, I guess. Yeah, this is the TeamSpeak server. How to stop this TeamSpeak server? Generally, I like to use system control. You can do it with service too, but just best practice, use system control. System control, stop TeamSpeak. It's that simple. As you can see now, I timed out, server shutdown. How to start this server? It's basically as simple as that. Start. Connected. As you can see, I've connected to my TeamSpeak server, and how to restart the server, you've already guessed it. Yeah. Connected. You see? Perfectly easy. I'm going to reboot the server very quickly. So, this server should be shut down now, yeah. And the moment my Ubuntu server is up online again, my TeamSpeak server should be online too. This is the best case that could happen to me. If not, I did something wrong. If your server is not starting generally, you did something wrong too. Maybe look over the tutorial once again. Yeah, but you see, I'm online on my TeamSpeak server once again. I can talk if I want. I don't have to anyways. Yeah, I'm going to log in once again as root. Okay. What I want to show you too. But I'm going to show it to you after this. Okay. We're going to set up SinusBot now. So there is a script online, a SinusBot installer, which makes your installation very easy, and I can only recommend you using this. You see, you have to put in this comment. I'm going to do that, and it's installing everything. It's going to ask me some questions, and you should only ask them, but yeah, exactly. I'm going to install the server. If you forgot your password, you of course choose 4. If you want to uninstall SinusBot, you can uninstall SinusBot, whatever. 1. It's going to take some time, actually. It's updating my server. Choose automatic, don't change anything. If you know what you're doing, of course you can. But I wouldn't recommend, because I don't know what I'm doing actually either, if I'm being honest. Both, unless you are planning only on using Discord. Yeah, I'm going to accept the terms. YouTube DL is pretty nice to have. I always like having it on my server. Yeah, you can update my system if you want. And now it's going to actually not install. It's going to take some more time. I don't know, it's just a very long installation process. I'm going to explain something for TeamSpeak meanwhile. Okay, yeah. When we're setting up the TeamSpeak server, and we're going to do it in the next tutorial, we're going to use a permission system, and it's called the Advanced Permission System. It's a system just from TeamSpeak. Pretty cool system. It works perfectly fine, better than Discord actually, in my opinion. But, and this is something I do not like actually personally at TeamSpeak 5. That's the reason why I'm going to use TeamSpeak 3 for the tutorial. I mean, this system is even better than the one in TeamSpeak 3, because the one in TeamSpeak 3 is just a simple system. You don't know if it's bool or number or actually power. But generally I like the overview of TeamSpeak 3 more when it comes to actually editing my server, because I think I find more information when editing my TeamSpeak server at TeamSpeak 3. I've found many options which I needed, but it's just a personal preference, so I'm going to do it with TeamSpeak 3. Something else you're going to need, I think it's going to disturb me, yeah. Short break. Just use SinusBot as the username. If you want something else, you can do that. Wouldn't recommend just use SinusBot, as I'm going to do. Another program you're going to need when setting up TeamSpeak next week is wget. I don't know if it's actually called that. It's a query app for TeamSpeak, so we can connect to our server as server admin, but over the query, which means we can assign more permissions to us than we actually have right now, because we're going to need more permissions if we set up the TeamSpeak server, because we need like infinite amounts of permissions. So I recommend downloading this one too, but I'm going to show this in the next video, of course, again. So we're going to accept the license. Yeah, Q, yes, enter. just not reading this one. I mean, no one is reading all that. Yeah. Okay. I don't know when it's going to be finished sometime. Looks like, okay, yeah, it's finished. So, something you can keep in mind. Sinusbot is always going to operate on the port 8087. So just put in your server address, not this one, your server address, and then put 8087. This is the Sinusbot login. We're going to log in as admin, but as you may have figured, you don't have a password. Don't worry, also on the first time installing, there's going to be a password here, which we're going to copy and change afterwards immediately. So, we're going to settings, user accounts, edit the admin account, and set your own password. Just out of best practice, so you won't forget the password anymore, so you don't have to change the password like an idiot. Like a moron, of course. What did I do wrong? Okay, now. Right. Sinusbot is pretty easy to understand. You can actually understand it yourself. What we're going to do is just create an instance. I'm going to create a test instance, so I can delete the Sinusbot instance because I don't like this one. I'm going to select the instance. This is the nickname it's going to have. And I want it to connect to my Teamspeak server. This is the standard port, it should always work. And as you can see here, you can put an identity key here. How this is working, I don't want to explain how this is working. Generally, you have to export your Teamspeak identity, use the identity code in the ini file, and just paste the code here if you need higher security levels, because, for example, the game forum server has a needed security level of 25, which is being generated in about 5 minutes, I think. I don't know actually, but however, it needs that. And if this level, if the bot is on level 8, it's not being granted to actually join the server. It's just going to be kicked immediately. These one are nice too, if just out of nice looks, whatever. And a problem you are going to witness now is if I want to start the instance, it's going to immediately shut off again. The reason for that is, if we look in the instance log, there is something missing. And I don't know exactly how to install it. I always forget it, but this guy here has a comment which you're going to need. And I'm going to log in to the server and just install this plugin, which is going to take 10 seconds. Then I'm going to sudo, no, I don't need sudo on root, system control, restart Sinusbot. Just, you have to restart it, otherwise it's not going to work. And if I'm now going to the instances, just going to reload, it should work. Yeah, as you've already heard, there's a bot now in my Teamspeak server. I'm going to give it to the server admin group. Just for now, I'm going to reboot the bot very quickly. Exactly. And what you're now able to do is maybe, I mean, a German radio station, I know it's very common in Teamspeak, is I Love Radio. And I'm going to start this one now. But I'm going to put him a little bit more quiet. And he's not talking. Okay. Fine by me, why are you not talking, mate? Ah, it timed out. For some reason, it just decided to turn off. Why? I don't know. Next try. Yeah. As you can hear, it's playing music as I set up. Yeah, you can do that however you want. It's pretty nice to have a bot on your Teamspeak too. But you're going to shut up now, and you're going to leave my server further. Yeah, but this is basically how it works. It's very easy. You can always turn it off. Sinusbot should also be a service which is starting at the beginning of your server. You can always disable the service with system control disable and then, for example, Sinusbot. I wouldn't be doing that because it does make sense to have it enabled, but if you just, I don't know, a control freak or whatever, it does make sense. The last thing I want to show you is, and I have to log in as Philip for this. Since we're finished now, for now at least, we are going to disable the root login again. And for this, we're going to access this file again, and I'm going to put that off, just delete it off the list or whatever. Sudo service sshd restart, and I'm going to log out. And what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to try to log in as root again with the correct password, and it should not let me. It says permission denied. It doesn't say wrong password, because I think if I'm logging in as Philip and I'm just entering the wrong password, it's just going to just say wrong password or something, but not permission denied. Oh, it says permission denied. Okay, whatever. Doesn't make sense, but I'd always have root login disabled, because in the end I can always log in as root. Hello? As root on my server, since root login isn't prohibited from the server itself, of course, but I wouldn't do it on the SSH server because it's insecure. Because if you have a public server, some people, and I promise you, many people, I think I have about 1,000 connections which are trying to log in as root every day, are trying to connect to your server and are trying to log in as root. And at some point they will crack your password and they will crack your server, and if your server is going down afterwards because of something like that, it's just, I don't know, it's just a pity and it's just unfortunate. But that's not my cup of tea. If you're doing that, you're responsible for that, of course, but yeah. This is, however, TeamSpeak, how to set up a TeamSpeak server. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you understood everything I said. If there are problems, let me know in the comments. I'm free to help you out. If you contact me on Game Forum, just write a private message. Check out the Game Forum TeamSpeak server and check out game-forum.net. Yeah. If you have questions about gaming generally, Game Forum is a nice platform. If you have questions about setting up a server, you can contact me via the forum, of course. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And see you in the next tutorial when we are going to set up the TeamSpeak server itself. Okay, see you, hope you enjoyed it, like it, subscribe maybe. See you next time.